That's the benefit I think that we've noticed the best. And then the other part too is
It's instant.
instant.
Yeah, it is.
So
Yeah,
why is it so fast?
Yeah.
Well, I'll try and explain it. Yeah, it's an interesting thing because we are seeing more and more that people say within hours it's effective.
Yeah.
Now, regular curcumin typically takes a few days. And the reason is, I've talked about these two proteins. I'm going to see if I can describe this so that it's easily understood. That transcription factor I talked about, NF-kappa B it's called, it lives in the cytosol. The cytosol is the outer part of the cell. I don't know if you've had biology. You have the nucleus and then the cytosol. And when you're injured, there's an enzyme that breaks down, IKK it's called, I-kappa kinase. It releases the NF-kappa B and it goes into the nucleus. And it's looking for the DNA that it has an affinity for and the gene, the promoter of the gene. Now, until you're injured, this thing is attached to it in the cytosol, or until there's oxidation. And here's the cool thing. If you're not managing oxidation in the cell, it can cause the I-kappa B to be loose. And it then comes in and creates inflammation as you age. It's one of the features that creates the inflammatory activity.
So
as you age.
literally we're getting younger as we take this.
Well, you're combating one of the factors, to put it more accurately, like I'd like to say yes, but from a scientific standpoint, you're countering one of the biochemical effects that occur when you age and that contribute to proliferation of age.
So the way we look at it is the science says exactly what you said. What we say is that we look, feel, and move younger.
Exactly, and it's because you have less inflammation. That inflammation escalates with age. You know, if you go for a run, ride the bike with your grandson or your son, you know, I know I'm going to get up in the morning and I'll be stiffer than he would be, right? Mm-hmm. But I take my BDMC, Power Kirk, and I'm at par because I'm countering this NF-kappa B adverse event with age with an antioxidant that preserves the integrity of that complex. Now, here's the other thing. This works differently because remember I talked about MSK1. Mm-hmm. So now MSK1 is a different protein altogether. It's a kinase and it's inside the cell. If you picture the cell, MSK is also in the cytosol and in the nucleus. And when this NF-kappa B is released and goes into the nucleus looking for its promoter gene, it's inactive. It has to be turned on by MSK1.
Right. So
MSK1 is like the key.
Block it.
Mm-hmm. It turns it on.
Yeah, turn it.
So NF-kappa B is not active. It's translocating into the nucleus, but it's not active until it's turned on by MSK. Now think about this. Regular curcumin just slows down the movement of NF-kappa B. It takes a long time for that to slow down enough that you're going to feel a difference. Our curcumin shuts off the key, MSK1. Boom, done. It's instant.
Okay, so that's why people are having the instant results.
Yeah.
So
what happens to the NFK after if there's no key?
There's no key. Now, here's the thing. We're not completely turning it off. The biological system's not black or white.
Yeah.
So what's happening is that, you know, you're turning off some of the MSK1. You can't get it all. Mm-hmm. So it's still functioning. We need NF-kappa B to function normally because there's normal functions that occur there, normal activities. But what we're doing is we are taking down the dysregulated levels of MSK1. Now, we're not only turning it off, we're showing that we limit the because phosphorylation is what turns it on. We actually reduce how much the cell is making back to normal levels.
Right. So why would you not be at a normal level? Like what are some contributing factors to
autoimmune diseases are known. Some are known to have MSK1 elevation.
Yeah.
Some cancers are known Hodgkin's lymphoma. You guys had someone with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Yeah.
And what happened to them?
Same thing. It was just that immediately they started having a clear brain, better movement, sleeping better. The mobility goes up, because what our belief is that we're made to heal. The body is, and if it's not healing, it's because there's something in our environment or that's dysregulated. Yeah. And movement is life. So once they start moving again and breathing and regulating, then we see the disease start to remiss or back off.
Yeah. So, you know, we're not supposed to be making claims for diseases like cancer and things like that because we haven't done the clinical trials. We've seen the results in the public place. And this is why this clinical trial now for the treatment of COVID and respiratory disease is a big one for us, because we're taking a path through allopathic pathways that are acceptable to be able to make those claims legally and say, now, once we go to drug status, then what? Now we have drug status for this variant. then we go sideways and say, okay, we're doing trials now on these other drugs, on these other diseases.
Okay,
Crohn's
That's
disease,
exciting.
colitis.
That's
Because
exciting.
COVID opportunity has created a fast track opportunity to, instead of it taking 9 years, it's taken us 12 months to go into drug status.
Right. Okay, so that's cool. So
So what's the difference between good and bad inflammation? Because there's a conversation that.
Yeah, well, inflammation is critically important for regeneration of tissue recovery. You know, when you get injured, the first response is an inflammatory response, which then sets in motion a restorative response. And it's important for that phase to occur. Typically, it's a 7 to 10 day phase. More specifically, it's a 7-day max phase. But if it's prolonged, it prevents the restorative phase from coming into play. And that's where it's a problem. If it's amplified because of other diseases compounding the inflammatory activity, it can be a problem. And in fact, this is what's happening with the COVID situation, with people who have other disorders that are already setting the stage for inflammation up here instead of baseline. And then when you get infected, the inflammation goes whoa, up here instead of here. And that inflammation is represented in terms of the terminology you've seen in the public space by the cytokine storm phenomena. The cytokines are the cytokines that elicit the inflammatory response and deliver the symptoms. And they create damage to the tissues that are in and around the vicinity of the infection. And because COVID is now known to become systemic in terms of the arterial walls and how it replicates, that becomes a situation that's pretty much systemic in terms of the inflammatory activity.
So when you guys actually, I mean, when you trialed it yourself internally, you did the science on it. It was working with a 30 level.
Without black pepper.
Sorry. Well, actually,
This is a good
here.
one.
Yeah, here. So let's
Here's
go.
the
Let's go to like more. We've got a lot of the science out of it. Let's go to more of the practical talk. The first thing is that people say you need black pepper. You need pepper in there. So why is this different again?
Well, the black pepper or the active constituent, the piperine, is said to, and there's studies that show that it enhances the bioavailability not only of curcumin but of other substances that it's added to. This is already bioavailable. When we raise that curcumin 3 level, there's a lot of things that happen that change everything about this. You remember we talked about ORAC value. Regular curcumin has an ORAC value somewhere around 9,500. The ORAC value of this is about 500,000. So it's not even in the same ballpark. This is not even the same.
So basically, one of these, to compare, like one of these pills is roughly 100 times more effective than a normal curcumin, if you look at it that way.
If you're talking about ORAC value, it's about 50, at least 50 times more.
Okay.
Yeah, with ORAC value. When it comes to the inflammatory activity, we've shown significant
So
differences
basically, what you're saying, sorry, is that you could actually take one of these or 50 of these.
for the ORAC value to be equal.
And that, I mean, that's something that people, because why I like to latch onto that is because the world, when we went and we started marketing this, we spent a couple years testing it in the clinic, and then we went to do the research. And oh my gosh, the research on curcumin was so outdated and all over the place.
Yeah.
And so what you're actually doing is you're creating new research in that curcumin that the rest of the world can use as well.
Well, yeah, and the rest of the world can actually, we've been cited thousands of times. Our research is public and peer reviewed, and it's cited on a weekly basis. I get a notification, ping, cited again, because it's novel ground. And in order for people to take the next step to the next novel, and this is what we do as scientists, we offer what we've done is public now, so that other scientists could say, hey, I have an idea that I may not have had. Let's leverage this platform. Let's go the next step. I mean, we're always trying to go to the next step no matter what.
Yeah.
But we have a team, and our team's limited to our team. Well, the global scientific community is what should be looking at what we do, and they are, because
That's cool.
we're making an impact.